All right, let's pull back the curtain on one of the most powerful and kind of invisible forces that shapes your entire digital life, recommender systems.
You know that feeling, right? You're scrolling through Amazon and suddenly, there it is, the perfect product you didn't even know you needed. Or maybe you fire up Spotify and the Discover Weekly playlist just gets you. It feels like these platforms have a sixth sense for what you like. So how on earth do they do it?
Well, I can tell you it's definitely not magic, and it's not a lucky guess either. It's a specific kind of technology called a recommendation system, and it is the absolute engine at the core of huge companies like Netflix, Amazon, and Spotify.
So, let's get into how the internet seems to know you so well, sometimes better than you know yourself. We're going to break down exactly how these systems work. And the secret, as you've probably guessed, is all about the data they collect on us.
It all starts with this thing called a utility matrix. Seriously, just picture a massive spreadsheet. On one side, you've got every single user, and across the top, you have every single item. Every movie, every song, every product. And the little boxes in the middle, those are filled in with your interactions, like a 5-star rating you left, or even just a click.
And this right here, this shows you the fundamental challenge of the whole thing. See all those question marks? The entire goal of a recommender system is to predict what numbers should go in those empty spots, to figure out what you might actually like next. Now, this is a huge challenge, because this matrix is what people in the field call sparse. That's really just a fancy way of saying it's mostly empty space. I mean, think about it. The average Netflix user has probably rated only a tiny fraction of the thousands and thousands of titles available.
So how in the world do they fill in all those blanks in that gigantic, mostly empty grid? Well, it turns out there are two main ways to do it. And a simple way to think about it is like a battle between a detective, who follows the evidence, and a mind reader, who just finds someone exactly like you.
This diagram just lays it out perfectly. Let's say we have customer W, and they like the singer Ella Fitzgerald. Okay, so the detective method looks at the content. It sees Ella is a jazz artist, so it suggests another jazz artist. But the mind reader method, it finds a totally different person, customer D, who also likes Ella Fitzgerald, and then it recommends whatever else customer D likes. Two totally different paths.
All right, let's start with the detective. This method is called content-based filtering, and it works on a really simple premise. You are what you like.
So here's how it works. When you like a movie, the system basically breaks that movie down into its core features. The actors, the director, the genre, you name it. It then uses those features to build a user profile that's basically a digital fingerprint of your specific tastes. Then, the system just has to find other items that match that fingerprint.
So let's say, 20% of the movies you've rated highly star Melissa McCarthy. Well, your user profile gets a really high score for Melissa McCarthy movies. The system then goes out and looks for other movies that also have a high score in that category and recommends those to you. It's really just a super high-tech matching game based on your own taste.
Now, the really great thing about this method is that it can recommend stuff to people with really unique tastes, and the recommendations are pretty easy to explain. You liked X, so you'll like Y. But the downside? It can lead to over-specialization. You get trapped in a filter bubble, where you're never really recommended anything new or outside of what you already like. But what if we just ignored the content of the movie entirely? I mean, what if it didn't matter if it was a comedy or a drama? That brings us to the second, and often way more powerful method, collaborative filtering. This is the mind reader approach, and it works by finding your digital twin. And the power of this method was famously proven by the legendary Netflix prize. You see, back in 2006, Netflix put out a challenge, $1 million to any team that could improve their recommendation algorithm's accuracy by just 10%. And this competition completely revolutionized the field.
And what was the big takeaway from the entire competition? The winning teams all used some variation of collaborative filtering. Their methods looked only at the patterns in user ratings, and they completely ignored whether a movie was a comedy or a thriller.
The logic here is just beautiful in its simplicity. First, the algorithm sifts through millions of users to find people whose pattern of likes and dislikes is eerily similar to yours. These are your digital twins. Then, it looks at the things your twins absolutely loved, but that you haven't seen yet. And finally, boom, it recommends those things to you.
This quote really just sums up the entire philosophy behind it. The whole thing is built on this one simple assumption. If your tastes overlap a lot with someone else's on a few things, they'll probably overlap on other things too.
It's a recommendation based on a kind of shared humanity, not just shared keywords.
Okay, but this incredible power to predict and persuade, it has a dark side, a really serious one. Because as these algorithms have gotten more and more woven into our daily lives, we've started to see some pretty major consequences.
And this slide, wow, it gets right to the heart of the problem. The exact same logic that recommends your next favorite movie on Netflix can be used on a platform like YouTube to recommend conspiracy theories or dangerous misinformation. The algorithm doesn't know the difference. All it knows is what keeps you watching.
And this opens up a whole host of ethical nightmares. We already talked about filter bubbles and the spread of misinformation. But you also have issues of opacity, where we have no idea why we're being shown something. You have violations of user privacy to gather all this data. And ultimately, you have a system that often prioritizes pure profit and engagement over the actual well-being of its users.
In the end, it all boils down to this. These systems are amazing tools for discovery, but they're optimized for one single goal: keeping you hooked. And that leaves us with a really critical question we all have to think about. When a system is designed only to maximize engagement, what happens when the most engaging content is also the most divisive or the most untrue? That's the challenge we're all facing in the age of the algorithm.